This 90-year-old man with Alzheimer's disease has no idea why he's standing in a courtroom, and Judge Caprio's reaction at the end of this video will break even the toughest hearts. Am I supposed to be somewhere? I don't remember. His voice shook as he clutched a folded slip of paper like it held the answers he could no longer reach. His hands trembled, his eyes darted around the room, unsure, frightened, searching for something familiar. Judge Frank Caprio slowly removed his glasses, set down his pen, and leaned forward. "Sir, what's your name?" "Harold. Harold Wittmann." "Mr. Wittmann, do you know where you are?" Harold looked around the courtroom, confused and overwhelmed. "A government place, I think. Did I do something wrong?" Before Judge Caprio could answer, a woman hurried forward, her voice tight, her eyes full of fear. "Your Honor, I'm his daughter, Linda. My father has Alzheimer's. He doesn't understand what's happening." Judge Caprio softened instantly. "Mr. Wittmann, it's all right. We're going to figure this out. You're safe here." Harold blinked slowly. "Oh, are you my lawyer?" "No, sir," Judge Caprio replied gently. "I'm the judge." Harold swallowed hard. "Did I hurt someone?" His daughter bit her lip, shaking her head, heartbroken. "Before we go any further, tell us where you're watching from, and make sure you're subscribed to Case Closed. This story deserves to be seen by everyone who still believes compassion matters." The 22nd of September, 2026, 7:12 a. Vehicle registered to Harold Wittmann. Observed stationary at expired meter, Dorrance Street. Driver remained in vehicle for 47 minutes. Citation issued 7:59 a.m. Ms. Reyes stood and read from the docket. Case 2026 TR 55341, the City of Providence versus Harold Wittmann. Charges: expired vehicle registration, failure to obey a posted parking sign, and failure to appear on 2 court notices dated October 8th and October 29th. Harold tilted his head, listening carefully, but his face showed no recognition. Linda raised her hand slightly. "Your Honor, may I speak, please? He didn't understand the letters you mailed. He can't process written information anymore. I try to keep up with everything, but I didn't see those notices until last week." Judge Caprio asked Harold if he remembered receiving any letters from the court. Harold looked at Linda. "Did we get letters?" She touched his arm gently. "Yes, Dad, but it's okay. We're here now." Harold nodded, still uncertain. Okay, that's good." Unopened court notice photographed as evidence. Postmarked the 6th of October, 2026. Delivered the 24th of October, 2026. Envelope shows forwarding label and delayed delivery stamp. Judge Caprio asked Harold if he remembered the day he got the parking ticket. Harold thought for a long moment. I'm not sure. Was I at the store?" "You were parked on Dorrance Street. Do you remember why?" Harold's face scrunched in concentration. "I think I needed to go somewhere. I can't remember where." Judge Caprio asked Linda if she knew what happened that day. "He left the house early that morning. I didn't realize he'd taken the car until I woke up and saw it was gone. I panicked. I called his phone, but he doesn't answer it anymore. He doesn't understand how it works." She paused, steadying her voice. "I found him 3 hours later. He'd driven to the old DMV building downtown, the one that closed in 2003. He thought he needed to renew his license. He kept saying he had to get it done before his shift at the war plant." Judge Caprio looked at Harold. "Mr. Wittmann, did you work at a war plant?" Harold's face brightened slightly. "Yes. During the war, I made engine parts. B-17s mostly." "That was a long time ago, wasn't it?" Harold nodded. "Yes, a long time." Then his face fell. "Wait, am I late for work?" Linda squeezed his hand. "No, Dad, you're retired. You don't work there anymore."
Harold looked at her confused. I don't? No, you retired in 1989. Oh. He looked down.
I forgot. Cognitive Evaluation Excerpt. Dr. Anita Patel, the 10th of September, 2026. Patient, Harold Wittmann, age 90. Presents with moderate stage Alzheimer's disease. Memory consolidation severely impaired. Frequently confuses past and present. Requires 24-hour supervision. Should not drive or manage legal financial affairs independently. Officer Mark Delaney was called to testify. He raised his right hand and swore in. He took the stand and opened his report. Judge Caprio asked him to describe the incident. Your Honor, on September 22nd at approximately 7:12 a.m., I observed a vehicle parked at an expired meter on Doran Street. The meter had been expired for over an hour. I approached the vehicle. The driver, Mr. Wittmann, was still inside. I knocked on the window. He didn't respond initially. I knocked again and identified myself. He rolled the window down part way. Judge Caprio asked what happened next. I informed him the meter was expired and asked him to move the vehicle. He said he was waiting for the office to open. I told him there was no office at that location anymore. He seemed confused. He said he needed to renew his license. I explained that the DMV had moved years ago. He insisted the office was there. I issued a citation for the expired meter and informed him his registration was also expired. Judge Caprio asked if Officer Delaney noticed anything unusual about Mr. Wittmann's behavior. He seemed defiant. He kept repeating the same things. He wouldn't follow my instructions. Judge Caprio asked if the officer thought Mr. Wittmann might have been confused rather than defiant. Officer Delaney hesitated. I suppose that's possible, Your Honor. At the time, I interpreted it as noncompliance. Judge Caprio asked Ms. Reyes to play the body cam audio. A brief clip filled the courtroom. Officer Delaney's voice firm. Sir, you need to move your vehicle now. Harold, voice trembling. I can't. I have to wait. They'll open soon. Officer. Sir, there's no office here. You need to leave. Harold. But I need my license for work. Officer. Sir, step out of the vehicle, please. Harold. Did I do something wrong? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Officer. Sir, please step back. Sir, do you understand me? Harold. I'm sorry. I don't know what I did. The audio ended. Officer Delaney's face had gone pale. He looked at Harold, then at the judge. Your Honor, I didn't realize. Judge Caprio held up a hand gently. Officer Delaney, I'm not criticizing you. You did your job. But this is why we review these cases. Linda Wittmann was crying quietly in her seat. She wiped her face with a tissue. Body cam audio transcript excerpt. September 22, 7:47 a.m. Officer. Please step back. Harold. I'm sorry. Officer. Do you understand me? Harold. I don't know. I'm sorry, officer. Sir. Harold. Inaudible, trembling. Officer. Sir, I'm issuing you a citation. Judge Caprio turned back to Harold. Mr. Wittmann, do you know why you're here today? Harold.
Looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. I thought someone said I had to come here to fix something. Do you know what you need to fix? Harold shook his head slowly. No, I don't. I don't know where here is. Judge Caprio removed his glasses and set them on the bench. He rubbed his eyes briefly, then looked at Harold again. Mr. Wittmann, do you remember getting a ticket from a police officer? I don't think so. Did I? Linda stood. Your Honor,
May I submit his medical records, please? She handed a folder to Officer D'Angelo, who brought it to the bench. Judge Caprio opened it and read silently. His expression grew heavier with each page. Finally, he looked up. Mr. Wittmann has been diagnosed with moderate-stage Alzheimer's disease. According to his doctor, he requires full-time supervision and should not be driving. Linda nodded. I took his keys after that day. I should have taken them sooner. He loved his independence. I didn't want to take that away from him. Her voice broke. But I can't watch him every second. And when he wanders, he thinks he's still young. He thinks he's still working. He thinks it's still 1974. Alzheimer's disease stage summary. Dr. Anita Patel. Moderate cognitive decline. Short-term memory severely impaired. Disorientation to time and place. Confabulation common. Patient often believes he is decades younger. Requires assistance with daily activities. If you miss Judge Caprio's humanity, keep listening. Judge Caprio asked Linda to describe a typical day caring for her father. She took a shaky breath. He wakes up at different times every night, thinking he's late for work. Sometimes he's looking for his lunch pail. Sometimes he's looking for my mother. She passed away in 2011, but he doesn't remember. I have to remind him gently. Sometimes he understands. Sometimes he gets angry. Sometimes he cries. She paused. He asks me the same questions over and over. What day is it? Where am I? Have you seen my car keys? I answer every time like it's the first time, because to him, it is. Judge Caprio asked if Harold had any moments of clarity. Sometimes he'll remember something from 60 years ago, a friend's name, a joke, a song. But then 5 minutes later, he'll forget where he is. He forgets my name sometimes. She looked at her father, who was staring at the folded paper in his hands. But he remembers to fold the flag every morning. My mother's flag, from her military service. He folds it every single morning perfectly and puts it on the mantel. He never forgets that. Harold looked up suddenly. Did I fold the flag today? Linda smiled through her tears. Yes, Dad, you did. Okay, that's important. I know. Voicemail transcript. Providence Memory Care Services, the 15th of October, 2026. This message is for Judge Caprio's office regarding Harold Wittmann. Mr. Wittmann is a patient in our outreach program. His daughter Linda is his primary caregiver. She is doing an exceptional job, but she is exhausted. On the dates Mr. Wittmann missed court, October 8th and 29th. He was experiencing severe confusion episodes. Linda could not leave him alone. Please consider these circumstances. Thank you. Judge Caprio leaned back and looked at the papers in front of him. He was quiet for a long time. The courtroom was completely silent. Finally, he looked at Linda. Ms. Wittmann, I want to ask you something. On the 2 dates your father was supposed to appear in court, October 8th and October 29th, do you know what was happening with him? Linda nodded. October 8th was a bad day. He'd been up all night convinced he needed to report to his commanding officer. I couldn't calm him down. I called the crisis line. They talked me through it, but I couldn't leave him. And October 29th? He fell that morning. He wasn't hurt, but he was disoriented. I spent the whole day trying to keep him calm. I didn't even think about the court date until that night. Judge Caprio made a note. So on both dates, he was having cognitive episodes. Yes. Judge Caprio looked at the file again, then at Harold, then at Officer Delaney. Officer, when you issued this citation, did you have any indication that Mr. Wittmann might have a cognitive impairment? Officer Delaney hesitated. Not at the time, Your Honor. In hindsight, yes. He repeated himself. He seemed lost, but I interpreted it as stubbornness. Judge Caprio nodded. I understand. And that's exactly why we need to change how we handle these situations. He turned to Ms. Reyes. Ms. Reyes, I want you to create a new protocol. If any officer or court staff encounters a defendant who shows signs of cognitive impairment, repeating questions, disorientation, memory loss, that case gets flagged immediately. We contact family, we get medical records, we don't proceed until we understand the person's capacity. Ms. Reyes nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Caprio continued. I also want a caregiver contact protocol. If someone is listed as a caregiver for an elderly or impaired defendant, we contact them directly. We don't rely on mail that might not get opened. He looked back at Linda. Miss Wittmann, none of this is your fault. You're doing everything you can. She shook her head. I should have caught those notices. You're caring for a 90-year-old man with Alzheimer's disease. You're doing the work of 3 people. You're not expected to be perfect. Draft Protocol Memo. Elder Cognition Flag to be implemented immediately. All defendants aged 75 plus or showing signs of memory impairment to be screened before citations escalate. Mandatory medical documentation review. Family caregiver contact required before court dates. Judge Caprio looked at Harold again. His voice was softer now, almost gentle. Mr. Wittmann, I'm going to tell you something important. You don't owe any money. You're not in trouble. Everything is dismissed. Harold looked at him.
Confused? Dismissed? Yes. That means you can go home. You're safe. Harold's face relaxed slightly. Oh, that's good. You've done nothing wrong. Harold looked down at the paper in his hands. I didn't mean to do anything wrong. I know. And you didn't. Judge Caprio turned to Linda. Miss Wittmann, all charges are dismissed. The expired registration, the parking citation, the missed court dates, dismissed. Your father owes nothing. Linda covered her mouth with her hand. Tears streamed down her face. Thank you. Thank you so much. Judge Caprio wasn't finished. I am also ordering an immediate caregiver protection flag on your father's record. If he's ever stopped or cited again, the officer will be notified immediately of his condition. They'll contact you first. Linda nodded, unable to speak. Judge Caprio looked at Harold one more time. Mr. Wittmann, you served this country. You worked hard your whole life. You raised a daughter who loves you very much. This court honors that service. You're free to go home. Harold looked at Linda. Can we go home now? Yes, Dad, we can go home. Harold smiled a small, genuine smile. Okay, I'd like that. He stood slowly, still holding the folded paper. Then he did something no one expected. He raised his right hand to his forehead in a slow, deliberate salute. Judge Caprio froze. Then slowly he stood. He placed his right hand over his heart and bowed his head slightly. 5 seconds. 7. 10. 12. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Several people in the gallery were crying openly. Officer D'Angelo stood at attention. Miss Reyes had her hand pressed to her chest. Finally, Harold lowered his hand. Thank you, sir. Judge Caprio's voice was barely above a whisper. Thank you, Harold. Linda gently took her father's arm and guided him toward the door. Before they left, she turned back. Your Honor, if there's anything we can do, any way we can help other families, please let us know. Judge Caprio nodded. If you're willing, we'd like to create a public awareness video about elder cognitive decline and legal system.
Only if you're comfortable. No pressure. Linda looked at her father, then back at the judge. We'll do it. If it helps even one family, we'll do it. Thank you. Linda and Harold walked slowly out of the courtroom. Harold paused at the door and looked back, confused. Are we going home now? Yes, Dad. Oh, that's good. I don't remember how I got here. That's okay. I'll take you home. Okay. Thank you. The door closed behind them. Judge Caprio sat down slowly. He picked up his pen, then set it down again. He stared at the bench for a long moment. Officer Delaney approached quietly. Your Honor, I'd like to request additional training on cognitive impairment recognition for myself and my division. Judge Caprio looked at him. I'll make sure that happens. Thank you, officer. Officer Delaney nodded and stepped back. Caregiving resource note. Entered.
Into record. Family connected with Providence Elder Services Memory Care Support Network and Rhode Island Caregiver Assistance Program. Follow-up scheduled for PSA coordination pending family readiness. Would you have ruled differently? Tell us below. 3 weeks later, Linda returned to the courthouse with a small thank you card. She handed it to Miss Ray to give to Judge Caprio. Inside, she'd written, Your Honor, my father doesn't remember the court hearing, but I do. You treated him with dignity when he couldn't remember his own name. You saw him as a person, not a case number. That meant everything. Thank you for protecting people like him. Judge Caprio kept the card in his desk drawer. 2 months later, Linda and Harold participated in a short public service announcement filmed at a local community center. Harold was having a good day, alert, calm, present. The video was simple. Linda spoke about the challenges of caregiving and the confusion her father experienced. Harold, seated beside her, said one line they'd practiced together. I don't always remember where I am, but I always remember I'm loved. The PSA was distributed to police departments, courts, and elder service organizations across Rhode Island. Within 6 months, it had been viewed over 150,000 times. Officer Mark Delaney completed an 8-hour training course on cognitive impairment recognition. He volunteered to train other officers in his division. In the first year, his training helped prevent 12 citations from being issued to individuals with dementia or Alzheimer's. The Elder Cognition Flag was implemented citywide. In the first year, 67 cases were flagged. 59 resulted in dismissed charges after medical review. 8 families were connected with caregiver resources they didn't know existed. Harold continued to live with Linda. Some days were harder than others. He still woke up at night thinking he was late for work. He still forgot where he was. He still asked the same questions dozens of times a day. But every morning, without fail, he folded the flag and placed it on the mantel. And Linda answered every question, every time, like it was the first time. Because to him, it was. 1 year after the hearing, Judge Caprio received a phone call. It was Linda. Your Honor, I wanted to let you know my father passed away last night, peacefully in his sleep. Judge Caprio closed his eyes. I'm so sorry, Linda. Thank you. I wanted to tell you something. In his final weeks, he had moments of clarity. In one of those moments, he told me he remembered being in a courtroom. He said a kind man told him he wasn't in trouble. He said it made him feel safe. Her voice broke. He didn't remember your name. He didn't remember the date, but he remembered feeling safe. That's the gift you gave him. Thank you. Judge Caprio's voice was thick. He was a good man, Linda, and you were an extraordinary daughter. I tried. You succeeded. They spoke for a few more minutes, then said goodbye. Judge Caprio sat at his desk for a long time after the call ended. He pulled out the thank you card Linda had given him a year earlier. He read it again. Then he picked up a pen and wrote on a small note card, the kind he kept for important reminders. Memory fades. Dignity must not. He placed the card on top of Harold's file and closed it gently. 5 years later, the Elder Cognition Protocol was adopted by courts in 8 states.
Harold and Linda's PSA was used in training programs for police, court staff, and social workers across the country. Linda continued her advocacy work, speaking at conferences and support groups for caregivers. She often told Harold's story, the confusion, the fear, the day a judge saw her father as a human being instead of a case number. Judge Frank Caprio retired after 42 years on the bench. At his retirement ceremony, a reporter asked him which case stayed with him the longest. He thought for a moment. There was a 90-year-old veteran with Alzheimer's. He didn't know why he was in court. He was scared and confused. He saluted me at the end of the hearing, an old reflex from his service days. I've never forgotten that moment. The reporter asked why. Because it reminded me that behind every citation, every charge, every file on my desk, there's a person, a human being with a story, a history, a life. The law has to remember that. If it doesn't, it's just paperwork. He paused. Harold Wittmann taught me that, and I'm grateful I was able to honor his service by treating him with the dignity he deserved. 10 years after the hearing, Linda was invited to speak at a national conference on elder justice. She stood at a podium in front of hundreds of judges, lawyers, and advocates. My father served his country in World War II. He worked for 50 years. He raised a family. He paid his taxes. He was a good man. She paused. But at 90 years old with Alzheimer's, he forgot all of that. He forgot his own name sometimes. And one day, he got a parking ticket he didn't understand. He missed court dates he couldn't remember. And the system, the same system he'd trusted his whole life, was ready to punish him for being sick. Her voice steadied. But then he met Judge Frank Caprio, a judge who saw him, who listened, who understood, who dismissed the charges and implemented reforms so other families wouldn't go through what we did. She looked out at the audience. That's what justice should look like. Not punishment, compassion. Not paperwork, people. My father's memory faded, but Judge Caprio made sure his dignity didn't. The room stood and applauded. Afterward, a young judge approached her. "Miss Wittmann, I watched the video of your father's hearing during my training. It changed how I see my courtroom. Thank you for
Sharing your story." Linda smiled. "Thank you for listening." 20 years after the hearing, the case was still taught in judicial training programs. The Elder Cognition Protocol was standard practice in courts across 43 states. Harold and Linda's PSA had been viewed over 2 million times, and in Providence Municipal Court, in a glass case near the entrance, sat a small, folded American flag, the one Harold had folded every morning for decades. Beneath it, a plaque, in memory of Harold Wittmann, World War II veteran, 1936, 2027.
Because what you just witnessed isn't just a courtroom moment. It's a reminder of what Judge Frank Caprio stood for. Memory may fade, but dignity must never disappear. Everyone who walked through that courthouse, every judge, every officer, every defendant waiting for their own case, felt the weight of what happened that day. They saw an elderly man struggling to remember his own footsteps, and they saw a judge who chose to meet confusion with patience, fear with kindness, and frailty with respect. And they remembered. They remembered that behind every ticket is a life, behind every violation is a story, and behind every trembling voice might be a battle no one else can see. Judge Caprio's legacy was never about punishment. It was about humanity. He showed the world that real justice isn't blind. It sees people clearly, even when they can no longer see themselves. This is Case Closed, where every story carries a lesson and where Judge Caprio's belief still echoes. Mercy isn't weakness. Mercy is justice. Subscribe before you go and let us know where you're watching from. More powerful stories of compassion and truth are on the way.